Hi, I'm Andrew Shovlin, I'm Trackside Engineering Director, and I'm here to answer your questions about the German Grand Prix. So, how are we holding up? Well, it's not the first time we've had a bad race, and we've learnt over time how to deal with them properly. But the important thing is really what we do here on forward. So today's been a day where we've been looking at what happened over the weekend. It wasn't all strategy. Also, the car wasn't as quick as we'd hoped it would be. And those are two big areas that we've put a lot of focus on today. But in terms of the strategy, it's been really unpicking the decision making, looking at what we knew at the time, what we should have known, what should have been on our radar, and really why we got lulled into making some decisions that turned out to be quite bad decisions. What went wrong? Well, quite a lot actually. But this was a difficult race. This is about as difficult as they come from a strategy position, because you're not dealing with a wet start going to dry or a dry start going to wet. This is a race where the water levels were constantly changing, the track was getting faster and slower, and the right tyre to be on was changing at different times. Now in those races, you've essentially got to gamble on what's going to happen in the future. Is it going to get wetter? Is there going to be a safety car? And it was on those gambles, those decisions, that we weren't making best use of the information available to us, but also in some of it, the events just didn't really go our way. Now, if you look at it in strategy sense, no one actually did the right strategy. The right strategy would have been to go from the X at the start to the Inter, to take a new Inter at the safety car, and then to do what Stroll did at the end, where he's coming in and fitting a soft tyre while the safety car's still out, being the first car on dry, and then racing that to the finish. So the fact that no one made all the right decisions shows how difficult it was, but certainly we're looking at the decisions that we made because we know that they weren't good enough, and that was why we ended up with such a bad result. So this question's about Lewis's tyre choice when we put him onto the soft tyre. But the conversation we were having with him was actually about the medium. We thought it was going to get drier. That was what we were reading into the weather forecast, and the medium was the only tyre we were comfortable taking to the end. Lewis was actually saying that tyre's too hard, and that was why we put him on the soft tyre. We know now that we should have been having the conversation about going to the intermediate tyre, but at the time what we were discussing with Lewis was just medium or soft. There was a lot of chaos when Lewis came in, but we were in the pits ready for Valtteri. He decided to stay out at the same time. Lewis had gone off track, hit the wall, broke the front wing. He came in. We could see that he was coming in, but it takes the guys a little while to get the different tyres out. But also we had this broken nose, and we can't lift the car on that to do the normal change with the jack. So we had to get different kit out to do that. Now, it looked messy. There was a change of driver on the tyre call. We also changed the tyre spec from a soft to an intermediate tyre, and getting the communication through to the guys when everything's so chaotic is very difficult. We're aware it wasn't pretty. The guys in the pits actually did a really good job reacting to that. We at least got the right tyres on the right car, but those situations are very difficult, and they're not rehearsed, they're not the ones we practice, but it does show us where we need to be stronger in future. We did talk about serving the penalty under the safety car, but we were concerned we'd drop behind some midfield cars. We weren't sure how quickly we would clear them, but with hindsight, it would have been better to do that. That would have been better than what we did. However, the really clever decision would have been to do something very similar to Stroll. We would have come in before the safety car had finished, served the penalty, fitted the soft tyres, but we would have been one of the first cars on soft tyres, and that would have actually given us the best result overall. Both the cars spun in turn one, as you saw. There were two reasons. One, the balance was a little bit oversteery for the conditions. We obviously hadn't run in those cold, damp conditions during the weekend. We didn't get it quite right. But there was also the dry line and then a damp patch. And with both of them, they just got a wheel on there, lost a lot of grip, and it triggered it into the spin. However, they were both pushing very hard at that point, having to take risks, trying to make sure we could recover positions, and it just didn't work out for us on the day. With these races, you can't really plan ahead. You only need to look at what happened in terms of the rain getting heavier, the number of safety cars, the VSCs. Even starting the race, we didn't know whether it would be behind a safety car or not, which changes our tyre choice. what we're trying to do is just look at the conditions, look at what's happening with the weather, also look at our competitors, see what tyres they're on, decide whether we want to cover them or whether we want to take a gamble and go on a different tyre. But it isn't like a normal strategy where you know that you're going in there wanting to do 2 stops, you know what gaps you want to build. This is really just a case of looking at what's happening and making the decisions based on that lap by lap. Thank you for all your questions. We're going to be back next week answering more of them from the Hungarian Grand Prix.